Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode of the Little Fellas Sports Podcast. So today we're joined by Gurkirat Singh Gill to review India's triumphant performance at the Motera to win the series 3-1 and set up a World Test Championship final date with New Zealand at Southampton in June this year. So to summarize what's happened in the test so far, India lost the toss. Joe Root decided to bat first on pretty batting friendly conditions, but England could only muster 205 thanks to some really good bowling from the Indian bowlers, especially Axar Patel and Mohammad Siraj, as England capitulated on the first day itself. India were jolted on the second morning by some really quick wickets for the middle order, and we were left at 80 for 4 at lunch on day two. But Rishabh Pant came up with the goods and put up a sparkling 100, and he was well aided by Washington Sundar and Axar Patel as India managed to pile on 365 in the second innings in the result leading England by 160 runs. England just could not hold on to the trial by spin, which has tortured them all throughout the four test matches, and they capitulated by an innings and 25 runs at the hands of the Indian spinners, with Axar and Ashwin picking up 5 wickets each. So, Gurkirat, first thoughts on this wonderful series win and how convincing India have been in this fourth test?
Pretty convincing, and I think it was a given. I still feel the last three tests are sort of clouding that England have in a way overachieved because this is the first test that India have lost in 4 years at home. So let's not take that speaks about the dominance of this Indian side rather. So the first test, England deserve a lot of credit for winning it away, and then it's all been an Indian carnage and India rolling over England. Coming to this test match, I think this was the best pitch in the entire series. It had something for everyone. You could score runs, as a lot of batsmen showed. Even English batsmen showed in the first innings. There was Johnny Bairstow who got in. There was Ben Stokes who scored a 50. There was Oli Pope who got in. Then Dan Lawrence scored a 40 odd. So runs were available on this pitch, and this had a little more pace and a little more pace than what the pitch had in second test in Chennai, which you could see from bowling of Mohammad Siraj. He got it to crank up to 146 and got out and got Johnny Bairstow out with that delivery and his setup. And I think this is something which we had spoken in the preview, that why a Mohammad Siraj and an Umesh Yadav playing could actually help India in pinning in getting Joe Root out and pinning him LBW, and he got him out LBW in the manner which we had spoken of. So a complete performance from India once again, especially with the ball. I think despite India winning the series 3-1, India will not be too happy with their batting performances because four batsmen in the top six average less than 30. Virat Kohli averaged 28, Pujara averaged 22, Shubman Gill averaged around 19, Ajinkya Rahane averaged 18. These are not good numbers if for any side. And considering these numbers are of three players who have played more than 70 Test matches, it's a concern. India would like to correct it when they play the next series at home or whichever test series which they play against any other opposition anywhere, because you can't have the three of the most experienced batsmen in your lineup averaging less than 30, and I think that has been the biggest victory for England in this test series.
Yeah, Gurkirat. Definitely, as you pointed out, India's batting has been a little lackluster. I know the kind of performance that we saw in Australia. I think that little vigor was absent with respect to the Indians, and the fact that we were actually playing on spinner-friendly wickets and we were giving away wickets to spinners is another cause for concern because traditionally we are good players of spin, and Pujara, the probably the best player of spin in the Indian side at the moment. He's been done by Jack Leach more than a couple of times, and that is definitely a little worrying. But going forward, I think India will probably have to sort their batting out.
Yeah,
Um,
he got Pujara out four times out of six, and
yeah,
out of the six innings, four times he got out to Jack Leach. One of them was a run out in second innings in Chennai, and one of these dismissals were the dismissal to Dom Bess in first innings in first test in Chennai, where he got caught out on a long hop, which was negotiated from the fielder at short leg. So yeah, I think when it comes to Cheteshwar Pujara, it had also to do with how there were a few error in judgments in case of Pujara, facing Jack Leach. Sometimes he just played the wrong line. In Chennai, in the second test in the first innings, he played with loose hands, and turned the bat face straight to slip. So it was also a case of Pujara batting poorly as well as Jack Leach bowling well. So yeah, but I think the next time Pujara plays Jack Leach, he'll be definitely better prepared, and we will see him use his feet a lot more against Jack Leach, which he really didn't do in this series rather.
Yeah, that was a really good observation because if you look at Pujara's dismissals, couple he edged through the slip, couple he was caught on the crease and he was leg before. So yes, as you pointed out, Pujara hasn't really stepped out like how he played Nathan Lyon. I don't think he had a similar approach while playing Jack Leach. He was always cautious about the ball turning away from him and maybe missing it in the end, getting stumped by the keeper. So I think Pujara was playing on Pujara's mind for a while. But yes, Pujara is definitely a batsman who learns. He evolves every day. That's the kind of approach he has to cricket. So definitely, next time he faces Jack Leach, he'll be 100 times more cautious and 100 times more attacking against him. Uh, so I think the biggest revelation of this series has definitely got to be the arrival of Axar Patel. 20 plus wickets in a debut series, just playing three test matches, filling in the big boots of Ravindra Jadeja. How do you think Akshar Patel has taken that role up? And are you like very happy that we now have at least a competition for Jadeja and Ashwin in the line?
I don't necessarily think that it's a competition for the places of Jadeja and Ashwin, but they're definitely very good backups, both Akshar Patel and Washington Sundar. Washington Sundar definitely has to work on his bowling, and Akshar probably has to work on his batting. But one thing I want to add, I think Akshar has taken 26 or 27 wickets in this series in three test matches, at an average of 10 runs and a strike rate of 28. What one thing that it puts in perspective, and this is not related to the series, but some might say that I'm being nostalgic or indulging in nostalgia, but it puts in perspective the performance of Harbhajan Singh in 2001 against Australia in India, because he took 32 wickets in three tests against a much better Australian lineup, who had players like Matthew Hayden, Justin Langer, Michael Slater, Ricky Ponting, Steve Waugh, Adam Gilchrist, all of them who could play spin. So it also puts some perspective to performance that we saw 20 years ago. And I think it is fair to say, after looking at how Akshar performed in this series, albeit against a lineup which was poor against spin, that why Harbhajan Singh's performance in 2001 was one of the all-time great performances in Test cricket. Coming back to Akshar and Washington, I have also another thing to add, that both of them have outbowled. Akshar outbowled, and Washington Sundar outbatted Kuldeep Yadav out of the squad for the next home test series. And it may not be the worst thing to happen to Kuldeep, because that way he will get some game time and he'll be able to work on his fitness and consequently probably increase his pace and work a little more on his skill for test match and first class cricket, because that is something he really needs to do. Because if he's going to stay around this Indian team, I doubt he will get a lot of games, especially when India go abroad. Because whenever India go abroad, the focus is also on elongating the batting depth, and Kuldeep really doesn't bat, and our pacers also don't bat a lot. So Kuldeep will more or less always find a role. That is one thing that has happened, and it may not be the worst thing to happen to Kuldeep. Apart from Akshar Patel, if I were to pick my four positives for India in a particular order, the number one positive for India would be Rohit Sharma, the opener. The number two positive would be Rishabh Pant, the keeper. Number three positive would be Akshar Patel, the bowler, and number four would be Washington Sundar, the batsman. I think India would be really, really happy with the performances of these four players. I am not specifically saying Rishabh Pant, the batsman, because we have already seen what he's capable of. There were a lot of doubts about how he's going to keep, etc. Will he be able to keep to spin? This is something which we had discussed in the preview. If our viewers could go back and discuss, and we had mentioned that at home, the Indian bowlers are going to create enough chances for to make sure that one odd drop or one odd stumping chance, miss stumping doesn't create that much of an effect. And as the series progressed, especially the last two test matches, the way Rishabh Pant has kept, it shows that he's improved leaps and bounds. The stumping that he did today of Oli Pope was brilliant to see.
Yeah, as you pointed out, Gurkit, I also saw a tweet from you like a couple of days back in which you had actually told the same thing that what Axar Patel and Washington Sundar have done with the bat and ball is they virtually played Kuldeep on the side. And the other factor that you did mention in that tweet was that Kuldeep Yadav actually playing the Ranji Trophy might actually help him get the confidence back, and maybe he'll come out being a better bowler. Because as you pointed out at the moment, I think the fact that he just bowled like what 5 6 overs in that Chennai test, and he was brought into that second test in Chennai when the second innings was pretty much over. So that kind of shows that there is something that's bothering Kuldeep Yadav at the moment, and I think he'll definitely do well if he just has some time away from the test side.
And just to add a little bit on that, people said that maybe Virat Kohli could have given him the ball earlier in that test match and given him confidence. But what people don't understand is that with this SG ball, when it goes soft, it becomes very difficult to grip and very difficult to turn. So I think Virat Kohli was completely justified in bowling Akshar and Ashwin as long as he could to take out as many wickets as he could. Because if you had had a situation where a partnership has started building and it has gone beyond, say, the 40th or the 50th over mark, it would have been very difficult to get those two batsmen out, whosoever they may be, because the ball doesn't do enough. And we saw that in the partnership of Ashwin and Kohli also in that test match. So I think it was very justified. The issue, I don't think there is any particular issue with Kuldeep as apart from the pace which he bowls at, because if the pitches are not going to have enough pace or enough bite of the surface, teams will be able to play him off the back foot or off the pitch because of the pace he bowls at. We saw in Chennai what was the speeds at which they bowled. Kuldeep was in 70s to 80s, Ashwin was in 80s to 90s, and Akshar was above 90s. Even touching 94, 95
Yeah,
kmph, and that is something which Joe Root also replicated very well when in the third Test match, and also here, which allowed him to get that more control. And I think as the game develops, we'll see that spinners will have to work on their pace, because Dom Bess also struggled for a reason on this surface, because he kept trying to flight the ball. While flighting is important, and it is a very good skill and an art to beat the batsman in the air and in the loop. But in test matches, you need that pace, because the batsmen are not really looking to come down the track and attack you. They're more in the mindset to play you from the crease and negotiate you after the ball is turning. Beating the batsman in the air is a very good skill to have in limited overs, but in test matches and in first class cricket, it is not going to be enough to just cut it.
yeah. As you pointed out, definitely the spinners they had a really tough time this series, even though some of them have very inexperienced. But at the end of the day, it is about how the bowlers approach the game. And I think, as you pointed out, Dom Bess was a bit of a letdown from England's point of view. He was brought in as the premier spinner, but for him to get benched and then to be outbowled by Joe Root, it's definitely not going to help his confidence a lot. Um, I think we need to spend some time on Rishabh Pant because the man has just been a revolution for the past 4 months. As you pointed out, let's not talk about his batting. The fact that when the chips are down, he somehow gets that real urge to perform and get the runs for India and pull India out of trouble. He's doing that for fun now. That's how Rishabh Pant has grown. He's taken rapid strides in international cricket. But Rishabh Pant, the keeper, I think has silenced all doubters once and for all. Your thoughts on that?
Like I mentioned, I think he's been brilliant with the gloves in the series. But coming back to his batting, if you were to discuss it, I think 2 years ago, or probably around the time India got eliminated in the World 2019 World Cup, where he got out playing that shot to Santner, which I felt was somewhat justified considering the matchup and how the run rate was creeping up and Santner was getting into a rhythm. But there was this thought that he's reckless and he's probably just a slogger and he's not a clutch player. Rishabh Pant has proven all of that wrong if you see in the last 4 5 months, and I say that because he's a very good clutch player. There are few instances from the past that showcase how he's a clutch player. 2019 IPL, the eliminator versus Sunrisers Hyderabad, Delhi had gotten themselves into a spot, and they'd lost 5 or 6 wickets, and they had to chase some 45 or 40 plus odd in the last 3 overs. They did it courtesy Rishabh Pant, who scored a 21 ball 49, and was the man of the match in their first ever playoff win in 12 years. The second qualifier, he was the top scorer. He scored 36 odd of 23-24 deliveries, and kept batting when no one was batting around him. The 2020 IPL final, he was having a stinker of an IPL. Had lost his shape, couldn't really connect, and people thought that he's not in that right mindset. He's not batting well, etc., etc. But even then, he came out to bat at around 23 for 3 and scored a 38 ball 56 from that position, and had taken Delhi to a very comfortable position till the time he got out, and then the innings derailed again. Then you look at Sydney, 97 in Sydney, batting on that pitch on the fifth day. Then we have seen what he did at Gabba, and now we have seen what he did in Ahmedabad. He came into bat at 80 for 4, and scored 100 and got out when he ensured that India had taken a more than 50 plus lead. And this was a virtual knockout game, because had India lost this game, they would have probably gone out of the WTC final. He did something similar in Chennai in the first test. India had conceded 570 odd runs. They were 73 for 4 when he joined Cheteshwar Pujara and scored 91. So he's as much as of a clutch player as he can get, and he's only going to improve, because as he plays a lot more, he will understand his game a lot better, and he'll start becoming even more calculated in the risks he take. Because another thing which because his attacking game is such that he can actually destroy bowlers. Another thing which doesn't get talked about a lot is how good his defensive game is. On Twitter, someone had asked that why did somebody like a Yuvraj didn't do that well, and why is Pant doing but better than Yuvraj? I just feel that it's because Yuvraj's defensive game was not as good as what Rishabh Pant is. Whenever he's playing the drive, he gets to the pitch of the ball very often. With Yuvraj, you sometimes felt that his stride was a little shorter and he played away from the body, which is something that Pant doesn't do a lot. Whenever he's been driving, he's gotten to the pitch of the ball really well, and you saw that in Australia whenever he played against Hazelwood or Cummins. So there's a lot to like about Rishabh Pant. I'm very happy that everyone who follows the sport has now started to see it, and hopefully we can put all those bad and poor jokes which were tasteless to rest now, and admire what is in front of him. And the next time he has a bad phase or a bad series, we are able to back him and remember all these performances and understand that why he's been picked and what he's capable of.
As you pointed out, I think Rishabh Pant has actually put in more than one commendable performance in the last 4 months to win the confidence of 1.3 billion Indians. And definitely, if he does go through a slightly bad patch next time, I'm pretty sure all the Indians will actually be supportive of him and not make those bad jokes, as you mentioned. So before we move on to Kohli and Sharma, let's just take a couple of audience questions that have come in. So Rajesh Khanna wants to know about Rahane and whether his batting is a cause for concern. You had talked voraciously about Rahane and his actually poor home record, and the fact that in the last four tests he hasn't made a vital contribution with the bat is actually making those slightly flimsy numbers more flimsy. So, what would you make of Rahane?
It's it's deciphering what is wrong with the Ajinkya Rahane has become a sort of an enigma, because if you observe his dismissals even in this series, there is no real pattern or there is no real weakness in his game. He struggles against spin. He has very low numbers against spin, but I don't think you can pinpoint a particular reason as to why is he bad against spin. Because in Chennai in first innings he played Jack Leach very well, and he did it very well against Lion as well in Australia. So there is no particular thing that you can point out as to what is wrong with Ajinkya Rahane. but things just don't seem to get together for him. If you look at the last 8 test matches, almost everyone in this Indian batting lineup has had more 50 plus scores. Pant has had 550 plus scores. Rohit Sharma has had three. Virat Kohli has had three despite playing 3 test matches less. Washington Sundar has had three 50 plus scores despite playing 4 test matches less. Uh, Shubman Gill has had 350 plus scores. Cheteshwar Pujara has had 450 plus scores. So there is no real reason for his failure, but he still continues to fail and not be very consistent. In this series, also, he's just scored 67, and then there was nothing outside of it. He averaged 18. So I mean, it's extremely frustrating, and it's probably an issue in the mindset where he's not trusting his defense enough and tries to be ultra aggressive. Sometimes I feel, but still, the game he has and the quality he has, he should be doing a lot better than what he's doing, and he does need a wake up call somewhere, down the line. But I doubt if he's going to get that from the team management, because the last time they did it, they got a lot of flack, and India lost both the test matches. He didn't play in South Africa, and then India won the test match he played. So I doubt if he's going to get that wake up call, because Virat Kohli has been, quite vocal in his support to both Ajinkya Rahane and Cheteshwar Pujara. But there is something, there's something of an issue with with Ajinkya Rahane for sure, and I think it is time that India start looking beyond him, especially when it comes to home test series, because I think his game against pace and swing is something that India can still make use of when they go overseas. But when it comes to batting in India, I think India can definitely do without Ajinkya Rahane, because there's Hanuma Vihari on the bench as well. There's a Mayank Agarwal. There's a KL Rahul. Uh, Shubman Gill, as also, a lot of people say, is a long-term middle order player. So a lot of options there. And if India wants to play on ranked turners in the future at home, they can actually have a batting order which has Pant at five, Washington Sundar at six, Ravindra Jadeja at seven, Ravichandran Ashwin at eight, Axar Patel at nine. And who says you might even slip in Hardik Pandya somewhere, and Axar Patel then bats at 10. So India can definitely do without a Ajinkya Rahane at home, and I think it's time that they start looking beyond him when it comes to home test series. Overseas, you do need him still, because you don't have anyone experienced enough who can play swing as well as him, because he has that quality. But it is time that India start grooming someone in home conditions, especially.
Yeah, Gurkirat, as you pointed out, I was also looking at this possible batting order from Pant. If we play all four and we play Bumrah and Ashant, we still have six great bowlers, or maybe five and a half if you include Sundar.
On
And
rank turners, you know sorry to cut you off, but there have been occasions when India have played Saurav Ganguly as the second pacer, and on rank turners, if Hardik Pandya is fit enough to bowl, he can be your second placers, and you can play any of the first pacer you have, and you can even play Umesh Yadav along with four other spinners, and that will still make it a very good potent bowling attack, which will bowl out teams for under 200 on most days. So that is the depth of the Indian team at this moment when it comes to playing in the home conditions.
yeah, I think as Indian fans, we should really be thankful that we have an absolute buffet of options for us when it comes to spinners. And same goes for the pace bowlers as well. The kind of combinations we can put on the park, it's actually baffling. That's the amount of quality and depth that we have as with respect to the playing 11 and the bench. Moving on to a question from Shiva Sharma. Um, this was actually talked about during the test series itself, right after Axar gave in the performances at Chennai and Motera. Um, I'm sure this is a little straightforward. Jadeja probably walks into the side, but now with Axar bowling well and actually contributing the bat in this in this test particularly, do you think Jadeja's place is a cause for concern?
No, he walks back in whenever he's fit and available. It's this question was probably discussed today in the commentary box as well. I think Graham Swan had brought it up, and my reaction to it was very similar to when Shane Warne during the Chilean series had asked about how does Ishant Sharma walk back into the Indian Test squad or the Indian 11. Uh, these two players have performed day in and day out in the last 4 or 5 years for the Indian team. No one who replaces them because of an injury and does well in one series gets the right to play ahead of them. So Akshar stays in the squad, but Ravindra Jadeja still starts ahead of him whenever he's available.
Yeah, true. Because Jadeja has actually contributed a lot with bat and ball, and even in the field, he's made some vital contributions whenever the teams needed. So it's that kind of a three-dimensional player that probably just walks into the side day in and day out. Moving on to another question, a little hypothetical on this. So Varun Parkal feels what the series would end up like if we had played on a flat deck like the first one in Chennai. Would that have
It
made a difference to the final scoreline?
probably would have
Yeah,
still been 3-1. Probably would have still been 3-1 because India's fourth and fifth bowler were much better after the first test, and they didn't allow England that breathing space with which is Shahbaz Nadeem and Washington Sundar did. Uh, Probably would have still been 3-1, but maybe the length of test matches would have been longer because whenever, and I've always believed this and I've said this before, whenever India play have a rank turner at home, they give opposition a chance, as we saw in the third test match when even Joe Root took a fifer. So it would still have been similar, and I think the sir the pitch that we had in the fourth test was better than the one in Chennai in the first test, because even if India had batted first, had England played the right 11, probably three pacers and one spinner in Jack Leach, they could have troubled India, because we saw what Ben Stokes did. So this pitch was apt to play two of Mark Wood, Ollie Stone, and Jofra Archer, because it had that bounce and pace, and they could have really troubled India if they'd
true.
played it right. Well, you know, the talk of the pitch and the gulf in quality uh, between the two sides has been so big that Joe Root's captaincy hasn't been talked about enough, and he's been pretty average as a captain, if you ask me. His usage of Ollie Stone in the second test wasn't good enough, especially in the second innings. The 11 that he picked in this test match was not good enough. I thought he picked the right 11 in the third test. A lot of people were criticizing why England didn't play another spinner, but the another spinner would have been Dom Bess, and we saw what he did in this test match. So it didn't make any sense to play a spinner just for the sake of playing a spinner. And then I think they were not right to drop Dan Lawrence in the third test match. Probably they did because Johnny Bairstow came back, and they wanted to use his experience, but he was disappointing. But even in this test match, second morning, it was a no-brainer to start with Jack Leach and James Anderson, considering Jack Leach had dismissed Rohit 4 out of 5 times before that, and he had dismissed Chiteshwar Pujara 3 out of 5 times in the series till then, and eventually he
True.
only dismissed Chiteshwar Pujara. But by that time, England had given, rather Joe Root had given a chance for Pujara to get set and then play Leach rather than facing Leach straight away. Who knows? Maybe if Leach had started straight away on day two, he could have gotten both Rohit and Pujara out. Things would have looked much different then. So eventually, the team with the greater quality and better skills came out on top. But England also didn't help themselves, when it came to their tactics and the playing 11.
Yeah, as you pointed out, definitely England missed the trick by not playing the right guy at the right time. I think it was more prevalent with respect to the ping ball test and the fourth test. They just overcompensated in the fourth test and ended up being at least one seamer shot. And yeah, was seeing the amount of assistance that Anderson and Stokes were getting on that second day morning. If they had played at least one out of Broad, Archer, or Wood, I'm pretty sure they would have given us a real run for our monies, because the amount of quality that England have with those three places on the bench, I was just flabbergasted at the fact that they didn't play at least one of them. So moving on to this question from Kani Muhilan. Of course, he's looking ahead. He's looking ahead at the World Test Championship. But if we had to generalize his question and probably talk a little bit about Virat Kohli's batting, of course, scoring 100 does not justify the quality of Virat Kohli. He's a little above all benchmarks. That's the kind of player he is. So, do you think this rut for Virat Kohli is momentary?
It's hard to explain because it's not that he's out of form. He's played three quality innings. If you look at Adelaide, then second innings in Chennai, both times in both tests. It's just that the 100 has dried up, which has been the case with Cheteshwar Pujara as well, but it has gone under the radar. Cheteshwar Pujara last scored 100 in Sydney 2019, but it's not that both of them haven't batted well. They've batted well, but 100 would be definitely nice, and it would be good to calm down the fans as well to an extent. Coming to depending on Virat Kohli, he's your most experienced batsman. He's your best batsman. You have to be dependent upon him in most situations. So that's a no-brainer. Uh, Most situations in ODIs and Test cricket, you will depend on Virat Kohli.
Yeah, Gurkirat. As you pointed out, definitely he's just a class player. He's above everyone, and the fact that he hasn't scored 100 doesn't make him any less. And definitely the hundreds round the corner. He's going to be playing his most favorite format for three ODIs coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Pretty sure we'll probably see the imperious Virat Kohli that we know. Moving on to a small segment on Ashwin. So Ashwin had a really good series in Australia. He saved a test match and also he had Steve Smith's number. Coming into this series, there was a lot of talk that Ashwin would be the trump card, and yes, he did end up with the man of the series as well. So a word on Ashwin and the way his cricket has evolved in the past 4 months.
Firstly, I'd like to mention to our viewers that Ashwin now has 8 Man of the Series awards, which is the maximum that any player has won for India. I think it's three better than the second best, which is being given to Sachin Tendulkar. Apart from that, he's taken his 8 Man of the Series awards is the third best, and the 8 Man of the Series awards are equal with the likes of Richard Hadley, Imran Khan, and Shane Warne. Only Imran Khan has achieved these 8 Man of the Series awards in lesser series. He has achieved it in 28 series, while Ravichandran Ashwin has achieved it in 30 series. And the two players who've won more than him are Jack Callis and Muthaiya Muralidharan. And I'm sure that he's going to win at least two more Man of the Series awards in his career and probably reach the double figure mark in uh, in terms of winning the Man of the Series awards, which would be second best after Muralidharan, who's won 11. But yeah, apart from that, he's been phenomenal. He came into the Test series with having 27 5-wicket hauls. He now has 30, which is same as James Anderson, and he's played not even half the Test matches that James Anderson has. So, like I've said previously, no words are enough for the kind to describe for the kind of player Ravichandran Ashwin is. You can talk of comparisons with players like Richard Hadley, Imran Khan, Jack Callis, and then sort of explain how big he has been and what has been the magnitude of his performances. Having said that, I think that the Man of the Series award should have probably gone to a Rohit Sharma or an Axar Patel, because the 5-wicket haul that he took in the first test came much after the match had already been in England's grasp, and the runs that he scored in Chennai, when he scored that 100, by that time the game was way past England's grasp and India had already won it. So if we are just talking in terms of impact, I thought Rohit Sharma and Akshar Patel had a much greater impact than Ashwin, but we have seen how commentators go for someone who's had whose aggregate numbers are better, but in terms of averages, if you take Akshar Patel's average, he averaged 10 as opposed to Ashwin's 14, and his strike rate was 28 as opposed to Ashwin's 35. So he was definitely the better bowler. And in terms of Rohit, you had his 100 in Chennai, you had his 50 in Ahmedabad, and his 49 today in the first innings was as good as a 50, or probably uh, as good as in 100, because he weathered the initial storm and he showed a lot of restraint. He made sure that England had to earn his wicket and had to do a lot of bowling, which probably allowed Pant and Washington Sundar to play to play the counter attack and then build on it. So I think a Rohit Sharma or a Akshar Patel would have been better suited to win that award. But having said that, Ravichandran Ashwin is a champion, and nothing takes it away from him. I would love it if if he goes past Harbhajan Singh's tally of Test wickets in the WTC, because that would mean that he has taken 7 or 8 wickets in that Test match, and it would mean that India are in a strong position to win that World Test Championship.
Yeah, Gurkirat. As you pointed out, definitely Ashwin's contributions over the last 4 months in all our wins has been phenomenal. He is a match winner. I think he's proving it time and time again. And especially in this format, he just knows where to bowl, how to bowl, when to bowl, and it's that little vigor, to bowl against the best and get the best batsman out. I think that sets him apart from every other bowler in the current crop. So you also touched upon Hitman. So this is my next question to you. Has Rohit Sharma sealed his place as the opener who will turn up against Bolton Southey at Southampton in the World Test Championship final? Has he settled
As of
all doubters once and for all?
As of now, yes, because he's shown, like I said, he showed great restraint and maturity when it came to his shot selection in this test match, in the previous two test matches, and he's looked at ease. He's definitely worked on his technique. He's leaving the ball outside the off stump pretty well, and he's playing it late. So I think India have to go with him and trust Shubman Gill along with Rohit to do the job for that one test match in July for sure versus New Zealand, and then maybe take a call when they tour England again in August. I think for the five-match test series. In that series I would actually like a Shubman Gill to bat in the middle order, and maybe a Hanuma Vihari because Hanuma Vihari can do a brilliant job of blunting the new ball and ensuring that the middle order that follows, the opening stand, is not facing the new ball straight away. Because I think Shubman Gill at five will ensure that someone is counter attacking and taking the pressure off, and not building up or getting into a shell.
Yeah, Gurkirat. As you pointed out, definitely, I think we are viewing Shubman Gill as a long-term number four, and definitely he'll have to be slowly gelled into that position of playing in the middle order, playing against the second new ball. But at the moment, I think it's good that Shubman Gill is opening with Rohit Sharma. I think Rohit Sharma is probably a really cool guy to open the innings with. He'll learn a lot from Rohit as well. And the fact that he has Pujara and Kohli behind him, I think it'll allow Shubman Gill to understand more about Test cricket. And eventually, if he starts playing in the middle order, I think by that time, you're looking at Shubman Gill, who's a little experienced, who knows how to play the game, and he knows his craft, he knows his limitations. I think by then Shubman Gill would have actually understood his weaknesses and turned out to be a really good player for India. So now let's just move to Q&A. We just have a couple of questions from our viewers. So Anirudh is asked this question in view of the World Test Championship. So if India have their frontline 5-6 pacers ready and raring to go, uh, how should the pace attack be against New Zealand in Southampton?
Uh, Bumrah and Ishant make it to the team. The third pacer is going to be a tough call. Whether you go with Mohammad Shami or you go with Mohammad Siraj, uh, it depends on who's bowling well at that point of time. Because considering it is the reason why I'm saying there are doubts is because we've seen Mohammad Shami not really be in his zone when it comes to bowling in the first innings. And when you are playing overseas, when you're playing such an important game, you need someone to ensure that the bowler, the third pacer, is displaying enough control and not giving away loose deliveries. And sometimes that happens with Mohammad Shami when he bowls overseas, and he just suddenly turns up out of nowhere in the second innings. So it's going to be a tough call. I think that India might as well might go with Mohammad Shami, but a lot depends upon what they feel on who's bowling, on how who's bowling in the nets, and who's in a better rhythm. But I think Bumrah and Nishant will definitely play. The third pacer would be something that India would have to decide about. I don't see Umesh playing overseas because he's mostly lacked control. Bhuvneshwar Kumar's fitness, we are not sure of, and he's not played Test cricket in a long time. I think the last time he played Test cricket was Johannesburg 2018, where I think he was also the man of the match. And
Yeah,
Tina Natarajan, I don't see him playing again in the near future. Uh, Shardul Thakur might be in the squad, if he continues to work on his batting, but I don't see. I don't see India playing anyone, any other pacer out of the four players that I've mentioned. It would be Bumrah, Ishant, Shami, and Siraj if all of them are fit and available.
Yeah, as you pointed out, Bumrah and Ishan make the cut. We just hope that they are fit and they're raring to go in England, because we have a cumulative of 6 tests over a period of 3 months, and it's really essential that we have Bumrah and Ishant in full fitness. With respect to the third seamer, as you pointed out, it's going to be a tough toss up between Shami, who's predominantly a one innings bowler, and Siraj, who's shown a lot of promise. And Siraj, with the ball coming in, I think will definitely be preferred, provided he's in full fitness and has a really good tournament in the IPL. So apart from that, we probably take Shardul Thakur as backup, and maybe if we are a little adventurous, we could probably go in with 2.5 seamers, provided Hardik Pandya is fit and available. If he is available, maybe a 2.5 seamer option could be taken. Your view on that?
I'm not so sure of that. I'm not so sure of that because Hardik Pandya is definitely not the third seamer yet. There's one name that we forgot while discussing all of it, and that is Navdeep Saini. So just because he was injured and he didn't have a great Australia tour, we forgot about him. But he's also in the fray, and
True.
I see that if he does well, he might also be on that tour to England, not necessarily to play the WTC, but to play the Test series later on because he has what a lot of Indian bowlers don't have. He can consistently bowl upwards of 145, and if he shows that control, which was lacking, in Australia in the ODIs and even in the first Test match that he played. I think he was bowling well at Gabba till the point he got injured. He was
True.
definitely bowling better than what he did in SCG. So we may never know. He might also be on that plane because a lot of uh, selections with regards to fast bowlers and the trust also comes down to uh, how Virat Kohli feels comfortable with a particular bowler, and playing in RCB definitely helps Siraj and Saini a lot in winning Virat's confidence. So I think that is also a factor that we'll have to think and account for.
Yeah, as you pointed out, definitely Navdeep Saini has got all the talent in the world. He's cut from a different cloth, to be honest. The fact that he can just run in and keep hitting the deck hard. Again, I think he has all the makings of a captain's bowler. He can just run in and bowl whenever the captain wants him to bowl. So I think it's just a matter of time. Probably have to give Navdeep Saini the time to settle into the test arena, and definitely he'll come through. So moving on to another question from Varun Pakal. So, given that Sundar has shown a lot of capability with the bat, it is definitely the duty of the team management to make sure that his bowling also improves on the side. And what better way to learn from a man who's actually taken 400 wickets, someone like Ravichandran Ashwin? So, do you think the team management should definitely create a scenario where Sundar is learning off Ashwin constantly by having him at least as a net bowler in overseas tours coming forward?
Not at the cost of taking away his game time. If they feel that he can play for India A, if there's an India A tour around, then he should definitely play for India A because you improve. A lot of players improve on the job, and the more overs you bowl in a real match, the better you get. It's always better to bowl in an India A game or a first class game than bowling just in nets. So definitely he should be around, but and travel as a net bowler whenever possible or be in the squad, but not at the cost of taking away his game time. That is something that I'm not very comfortable with.
Yeah, as you pointed out, definitely Washington Sundar can only get better if he gets some games in those 8 tours. But definitely, whenever he gets a chance, he should just pick from Ashwin's brain and really work on his bowling. So with that, it's a wrap on the show. Thank you to Gurkirat Singh Gill for joining us on this special live recording of the review of the fourth test. We've had a wonderful test series. India has come up trumps. We've won it 3-1, and we are going to Southampton to face New Zealand in the World Test Championship finals. So please do like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have lots of content coming up, given that we have the limited over series, the T20s, ODIs, and the IPL. So stay tuned. We'll be back with another episode. Thank you, and bye bye.